Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faisal Abbas. I'm the editor-in-chief of Arab News, the region's leading English language daily. In other words, I'm a journalist, and I'm very excited to be here discussing the future of my job, essentially, the future of technology in communication. And the panel here next to me are going to tell us whether my job is going to be replaced by a robot or not. So I am very excited. We're delighted to be here discussing this very important topic. As you know, whereas there's sort of a clear-cut verdict on whether or not technology has helped areas such as medicine, for example, in curing diseases, finding solutions, the verdict is still not out when it comes to government communications or journalism. Yes, we are now all able to disseminate information. We are all able to receive information much quicker. But this has been accompanied by a rather alarming phenomena, which is the increase in fake news and people's inability to distinguish what is correct and what is fake. So, to discuss this topic, I am delighted to be joined by a panel of experts, starting with the ladies. We have Cassandra Kelly, who is a business director and advisor, and a highly regarded strategist and tactician. She will be talking to us extensively about her views on this topic, but we also have people with technical experience in terms of artificial intelligence, and I'm delighted to be joined by two of the best minds as well in the world. To my direct left, Juan Carlos Riviero, or JC, who is the co-founder of Vilinx, and he works with actually a number of media, or traditional media organizations, to help bring them to the 21st century. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, JC. And the gentleman to the far left is Jarek Krolowski, and he is the president and CEO and founder of Synerise, and he comes from Poland, and he's actually one of the foremost and highest regarded experts on artificial intelligence. If you ever go to Poland, he's more likely to be seen on television inventing stuff and finding solutions for problems, and we're going to hear what he has to say about government communications. So, without further ado, I know it's rather early in the morning, so I've been asked to cheer everybody up. Let's see a show of hands. Who thinks technology has had a negative effect on government communication or journalism? Okay, only two people in the room. Who thinks it didn't? Who's on the fence? Okay, very good. So the session is over. Thank you very much. No, but Cassandra, we see an overwhelming majority in the audience who think technology has had a positive impact on government communication and communication in general. But there are the skeptics, such as myself, who insist that this has facilitated fake news. It has helped people who are not necessarily ethical gain the upper hand in terms of disseminating information. What are your views?
I think it's incredibly easy for us to blame technology for some of the lack of decency of human behavior and human nature. For me, I think we're getting overly wound up about the idea of fake news. Really, has there ever been a period of time when news has been purely transparently fact-based with no reliance on agenda or ideology? I'd argue there hasn't ever been a period of that. So we have always had some form of biased dissemination of information to us. The exciting opportunity with technology, and that is coming to us swiftly, is it can both stamp out some of the negative behavior of the bad actors. And you know, if you want to worry about the fact that information can be disseminated that is negative quickly, it can equally be rebutted using the same mechanism. So we will hear from some of my colleagues on the stage today that about the actual technical capability, but it has already started. And this progress, I think, to cleaner news is coming sooner than maybe you'd expect. But at the end of the day, the antidote to fake news is critical thinking. It's not blind trust. It's not wish and hope. It is actually the audience that's receiving the information to look at a fact and verify it. It's actually critically determine whether what they're hearing is actually accurate, rather than blaming technology, which is a channel. There are humans that are there, and it's our job to drive the technology. It is our job to form a view. So I'm not so hysterical about the fake news, even though I'm not enjoying some of it.
Well, Cassandra, if you want something free of fake news and ideology, you should probably read Arab news, but you'd expect me to say that anyway.
Thank you. And your job is totally secure because we still need humans.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But let's talk to JC for a second. So if I understand correctly, your company helps publishers like my company do their job better and easier with the use of artificial intelligence. Could you tell us a bit more about how could you help me do my job?
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. We are in a mission to provide super intelligence to every human being, okay, as a company. Myself, I have more than 100 patents. My co-founder and CTO is from MIT, was in NASA developing autonomous satellites. And we have developed the first platform that is capable to learn on its own. Okay, so probably all of you know AlphaGo and DeepMind, that they are developing, a platform that is able to win the world champion chess.
Yeah, but how does winning the world championship help Arab News or CNN or BBC to do their job?
Because at the end, the super intelligent, and we have that super talent on the technical side, but we have also the former president of the CNN, John Klein, who is a president of my company as well. So we want to use all of that superpower not to provide fake news. We want to help the media companies like you to be able to produce 5 times more content, okay, for the same amount of resources, to do search better, to understand the content really well in order that the people can produce better content. And this is what the people want to consume, better content. They don't want to consume fake news. You want to do a better job, faster and easier. And then you want to distribute it in a very easy way. So you want to read the news that are important for you, that maybe are different for me or for everybody. So computers are helping people. Machine learning and artificial intelligence is going to help people because there is a natural opportunity for them to do your job better with all the information that the machine can do for you.
But personally, I don't want to get rid of my staff. I would like to keep them. So you're saying you have machines that can do it 5 times better?
No. They will add value. So what they will be able to do, instead of wasting 1 hour trying to find that content that is really difficult, they will find it in 1 minute, and then they will spend that time to make sure that the information is correct, accurate, and the message and what you want to transmit is there. So you can make the calculation manually, but nobody now is thinking to do some multiplications. You use your calculator or your computer. And those are not taking jobs out. They are just making your life easier.
So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is you can enable us to enhance our abilities in searching, verifying, producing basically news. But let me go to Eric. Doesn't that mean this technology can be double-edged? What if such great abilities fall in the wrong hands, or artificial intelligence, as we see in the movies, decide to have their mind of their own and decide that we're going to manipulate the media? Before we used to say this is science fiction, but having had dinner with you last night, I'm starting to believe things that I didn't believe can happen or are going to happen. So tell us, what are the safeguards, for the skeptics, for the 2 skeptics here in the audience, me and the other person? How would you make us, go to sleep better knowing that we're not going to wake up one day and have machines decide our news agenda?
Okay, so I try. Thank you very much that I can be here. It is great honor and pleasure to be among such a great audience, especially for the people from my country. As you probably know, we have a lot of different transformations last decades. Maybe to make this story much more Euro-pleased for you, big romantic vision and mission of the computer science always was to and is to eliminate routine from people's lives. And of course, as you probably know, we have different kind of spending this life. So there are survival level of living, significant level of living, successful level of living. And of course, the government work is to, and mission is to just deliver something which will be significant. So the government should serve to the people. And of course, AI today, but also both with the big data technologies, is about freedom, but also it is about the customer and citizen experience. So trying to be very transparent, we need to choose the technology for the next years. Technology gives you, for example, egalitarianism for all of you daily work and or your life. So just imagine that today there is no differences between choosing the technology for some routine job. Just imagine that your job could be much more inspired by a lot of different contexts. Today you can just choose some specific technologies and eliminate the routine. And if you're thinking about the fake news, I think that AI just brings the new standards and new quality to your life. Because, of course, this is a lot of problems right now via internet with the fake news, with trying, to force people, thanks to technology, to doing some bad things. But I think that in the next couple of years, everything will change. You know that community is very strong in terms of the programmers, in terms of the great minds. And this is always something like the resistance for all the problems with for example, propaganda and so on. So I believe that the next years will be the years of the transparency in the tech. And this tech gives you a lot of different opportunities to make your lives great again.
Cassandra, going back to kind of regulation, policy making, because this is a government, essentially, summit. We've now heard the experts talk. They are very enthusiastic on the technology and how it could help, as Jarek said, put an end to fake news, increase transparency. But for this to happen, I believe there has to be a regulation. Now, the question is to you, who do you think should be the regulator? The government, technology, or a third party?
I think as it currently stands, we have the structures that we have today, so we can think of a mystical future. At the moment, we have what we have, and unless we create some international tribunal, some international body that regulates, which is independent, for the moment we have the systems in place that we do. And so it is, I think, appropriate for governments to step in and play their part. As to the question for me about regulation is vital, I think, and the challenge that we see is that whilst there's the creation, the invention, regulation is struggling to keep up. People are not sure what they should regulate, who they should regulate. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier on, and if you look at the social media platforms, I think governments have a role where they can regulate those companies, and those companies should be required to play a very key role in the mediation and the integrity of their own platform. They can best afford it, and it is their duty and obligation. And so that is where I think the regulation can be very effective, to regulate those companies that provide the platform that is then pushing out the information. So very hard, I think, for the government to be responsible for regulating the Instagram user, as opposed to regulating the platform itself. So I think there is an incredibly important role to that in order for decency to be upheld or encouraged or restored. And I don't think my fellow panelists disagree with me when it comes to regulation. There's an exciting opportunity, but it shouldn't be unbridled. At the end of the day, greed plays a role. Also, so does people don't even see the future as clearly. So they're unintended consequences. It's not necessarily Machiavellian intent. People don't necessarily set out to be a bad actor. They just don't see the unintended consequence. So it's for us to sit down around the table with an appropriate group of experts and talk about what could be the opportunity, what could be the threat, and how do we try and do our very best to navigate it and steer it towards what we actually want to say today, which is this is an eye-wateringly exciting opportunity for precision, reach, integrity. And that's where we need to get it to. And so regulation can play a role in that.
We are lucky to be with a group of appropriate experts to discuss this, and I'm going to take it to JC. Building on what Cassandra has said, His Excellency Mohammed Gargawi yesterday in the opening of the forum was doing a small comparison of how much governments spend on R&D as opposed to companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and the difference is massive. So there is a question of whether or not governments actually can regulate nearly 2 billion social media users, but also should it be their job or not? We know the harmful sides now of disseminating information in the way it is, and I know you're more on the developing part, but do you stop and think about the thing that Cassandra said, which is sometimes the unintended consequences, and do you believe the solution should come from the developer's side?
Well, it has to be from the developer, but it has to have some combination with some level of regulation, but I don't think people are really aware about the really capacity or the powers of that, how this is going to transform the world and the society, okay? So I think we have seen the transformation of the computers, personal computers, but this is not going to be nothing even close. When you have the capacity and the knowledge of having Google, but without having you to search, okay? So all the information in your personal assistant, it's not just about internet. Internet will be just a small chapter of all the information that those machine learnings are going to be managing, because every camera, every document, everything will be available for those machines, and those will be like your friend, your personal friend that is going to take care of you and is going to give you a lot of advice, help. And when you have such a big power with you individually, that right now is just for big corporates or big governments, you have to put some level of regulation, because consequences of something like that could be really great, curing the cancers or healthcare. But there are also, like a human history, you will see people using that superpower in not the proper way, and definitely some kind of regulation that has to be in place. And we are not expecting the governments will be the people with the PhDs to develop those solutions, but at least it should be something that combines the technology, and the government should put some level of understanding that this has to have a good use rather than bad use.
Very interesting point. Jarek, last night you were playing with your phone and you showed me technology of facial recognition which can accurately tell me how I look when I age.
Or you look better.
I'll tell you that I'm happy to know that I'm going to age well, according to Jared. I hope you're right. You made me smile when I wasn't smiling. You gave Cassandra black hair very, very accurately. So yes, it is fun and games, but I'm sure you can think of it from a journalist perspective, that if you can do it very accurately, you can also make me say something I didn't say. And we've seen examples of that. So the technology is out there. So my question to you, is there an antidote? So is there a technology that will detect if something has been manipulated or not?
Yes, of course. The state-of-the-art technologies could deliver all the different algorithms for example, some specific prediction, fraud detections, and so on. I have the big and the great ask for all the audience. Who is using AI today, daily? Okay, the answer is everybody is using, in your phones, in your home, and so on. And what is really nice, and what is the challenge today, that truth is not enough. Truth should look like the truth, because we can just simulate a lot of different things today thanks to the rich technologies. For example, if I can listen you for the 1 minute, I can just say thanks to your voice everything I want, just making it with the keyboard some words. So I think that there is a lot of different technologies which help, for example, journalists, communication companies, and government to look for some specific, fake news, for propaganda, and so on. But the conceptual work should be done on the, I think, so multinational level, because, as you probably know, a lot of different, technologies is the great weapon today. This is like the fundament of the economy today. Not weapons, not like the old-fashionable commodity things like the money, but the imagination, like the intellect. This is something we need to invest. And sometimes on the specific level, we need to make the narration, which is like the global one. So we have different institutions which are about military. I think so that we need to have the global institution which will be about the AI, about the ethics, about new technologies, big data, which help us to understand how we need to rule this kind of technologies. And one more thing. The most important, I also think like that, feature of the people is the freedom. So I believe that all of us can and should decide what is the level of, for example, the data usage of this specific person. This is like the liberal data approach to the new technologies. If I choose to give more information, I expect to have much more better life in terms of the quality.
Cassandra, so the short answer is we should regulate. The consequence of that means that if the whole world decides today to do regulation, it will at least take us a few years. In the meantime, we have immediate consequences of disseminating fake news at a pace that hasn't happened before. We've seen things like Brexit, for example, regardless whether it's right or wrong, but there is an argument that a lot of people voted based on wrong information, which has been disseminated more easily because of technology. So from now until we reach a point where communication is regulated, what should governments do? What should consumers of news do? Or how could we avert some of the negative consequences of what we're living?
So I'm just thinking about really the different hats that I wear, and the one that I guess I feel very strongly that I'm here for today as a representative of the European Union's Global Tech Panel that was created last year under the leadership of Federica Mogherini. And I think those sorts of mechanisms are incredible. They're things we can do today, and that is a collection of civil society, corporate, and technologists. So there's a group of, and government, of course. So we're brought together around a table to talk about these opportunities, to talk about the threats, and to then go back out into their world to collaborate, to bring in more players, so that whilst we're still waiting and we're determining how we're going to monitor, regulate, protect, guard, something that is no longer just a physical threat. There are things that we can be doing, and indeed they had the foresight to start doing. So I think that's one point that I want to make, that there are things that are happening that are effectively bodies that are being created alongside. And there is really great work with very influential people. I mean, sitting on our panel alone, we're represented being the president of Microsoft and VP at Google and chairman of Nokia, etc. So we really do have a quality panel. The other thing, I just want to really pick up on that I'm hearing is this discussion today was about two things. It's technology, and there's another word in there that's communications. And communications isn't just about what I say or how I say it. Communication is a dialogue. It's not just transmission. It's about engaging with the heart and mind of another individual, listening to what it is that they're worrying about, the people that you serve, and then communicating back to them a message that should be relatable and repeatable. So I think that that's really important, that we don't, it's just very easy to blame technology for fake news. And I would like us to remind ourselves that as the people that have the leadership position to offer up communication, that we must get back to thinking about who are the people we are there to serve? What are their pain points? What do they care about? How can I help them? How can I help them understand their own pain and communicate that to me? It is a dialogue, not just a transmission. So I don't want us to obsess overly about technology. I really want us to give ample weight to communications. And as a friend of mine who I advised him as he advised one of the Australian Prime Ministers, he's a political strategist, John McTiernan, at PSB, as he said to me, really, Cassandra, there are three things. You know, there's edge, you've got to cut through, you've got to cut through all the noise. If people have got 7 minutes of political interest a week, they have only 7 minutes where they'll digest that really. How do you cut through all the noise and disrupt their lives so that they'll hear? How do you give them the crunch, the granularity, the specificity, so that it is relatable and repeatable, so that they can actually understand what you're saying? And then super importantly, which is where he and I connected and have stayed lifelong friends, I suspect, is on the lift. If you can't connect someone's heart and mind to your message, whether it is that you use and deploy technology, hopefully to do so, if you can't do that, why bother? So I just urge us all in this room not to just blame technology or be fearful of it, to actually let's embrace it for all that it can do to help us communicate with more precision, with more heart and soul to more people. And I think that is what I'm very excited about. And I am super proud to be sitting alongside these two gentlemen who can make that real, and their colleagues.
I think that's very good advice. Yes, JC.
I just want to add, because we're working with the main news organizations in US and also entertainment companies, mainly US. And with all this fake news, with all this Facebook and so on, what I can say is that in the last year, those organizations have been growing more than ever, because people are, relying on the sources that they can trust. Okay, and that's good for media. People are really worried about your job, and good content, good news, it's what people are looking for. Good brands investing on the content, on the journalists, on the people that they explain the truth, and they have the brand and recognition is doing really well. And technology is just helping to do in a more efficient way to improve the business in the delivery and the content creation and so on. This is the part that we do, but the best way to combat fake news is have journalists that people can trust, people that the audience can rely on, good brands, and this is going up and something else is going down.
So you said on your board sits a former president of CNN?
He's the president of the company. He's not the board. We are working together. So I'm the head of the technology. He's the media. He's the former president of CNN, and obviously he's using this to help his colleagues and friends.
So what does he tell you news organizations or traditional news organizations are doing wrong?
The business part is not about the content. They create content really well. The only thing is that they're competing with Netflix, Google, and Facebook. That they have massive technology platforms in order to do the content creation more efficiently and the distribution. That's the part that neither of the current media technologies today or news organizations, they do news like they were doing 20 years ago. Okay, that's the part that we are changed and we help them. But the credibility and to combat the fake news is the person like you who writes the content or decide what they are going to make public. We're just trying to help them to make it more efficiently and distribute better. We help on the business, so they can become profitable and they can compete versus the Google, Facebook, and Netflix of the world. So we give them those tools. But at the end, the fake news is based on the people of like you and the audience here.
Jarek, let me take it to you. Is there anything that a person can do on an individual level at now? So if I'm a consumer of news and I want an AI solution at the moment, I don't know if it exists, but to help me filter out something, is there sort of a blockchain technology, for example, for news?
I think that the basic and very fundamental thing is like this, that today we have the choice. Couple years ago, couple decades ago, we have some specific news which was delivered to our minds. Right now, we need to choose. So it is always about our education, our intellect and capabilities, and so on. And of course, we live also in the time of the hyper-personalization. So this is kind of the tools we can just choose to make our life much more, efficient and also sophisticated in terms of the content. But of course, such technologies like the blockchain give us also the freedom from the institutions. So we can just use it for propagate some specific content and so on. And I give you the great example how you can get the voice thanks to the new technologies right now. 10 days ago, one of the Polish football clubs just collapsed because of the bankruptcy. And of course, I try to invest in that specific club. But meanwhile, we give the opportunity to the community of the football fans to use the crowdfunding to donate the club. In 24 hours, they donate almost €1 million for this club. And this is something which is like the power of the technologies today. You can have the discussion with your clients, with your viewers, and so on. This is something which is really important. You have personal possibilities to reach me as your viewers on your webpage. So this is something which is very crucial.
On that note, I think we're running out of time, so we have to do it to bring this very interesting conversation to an end. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a big round of applause for our excellent panel this morning, and thank you for coming.